All right, I think we are finally live. Hello everybody, Anna Sabramwitz here, your interactive storytelling coach. Hope you're having a fabulous day. Let's get right to it. Today I'm going to talk to you about the awesome, the powerful, the underused, the underappreciated, understood karma meter. And basically also how it fits into the interactive storytelling framework and how you can use this specific mechanic to seriously leverage your awesome scenarios and story and amp them up to the next level by reinforcing certain behaviors. And I will show you how to do that today. All right, but in the meantime, let me make sure everybody is here and I can see your comments. Make sure I'm inviting all the right people. Now, if you are here, say hello. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you have questions as I'm going through these awesome mechanics, please post them in the chat. I'm trying to monitor the chat. There is a bit of a delay, of course, but if I get to see it and if I get to, and if it's something that I can actually address on the fly, I will do that, all right? So, got some people here already. Hi, Rashid. Hi, Nurdan. So wonderful to have you here. Thanks so much for joining me. Okay, so first a quick recap. And this is going to take a little bit of time. So if you don't have time to learn something new right now about an e-learning mechanic, this might not be the time to watch this. But if you're interested in crafting your own awesome interactive story and you want to learn the mechanics behind what makes a powerful story, then this is the place to be. All right, so sit back, relax, and as questions come up, post them in the chat. Now, also, I just wanted to put here that if you have listened to me before about interactive storytelling and you're ready to talk to me about how you want to take yourself to the next level, I will post the link to book a strategy session with me in my calendar, and we can go from there. So let me do that first here so I don't have to think about it again until later. All right, so if you haven't seen the other videos I've been posting this week, basically, my goal for the next 2 weeks is for those people who are unable to join me into our interactive storytelling development coaching community, I still want you to craft your own interactive story regardless, right? Because it's a powerful tool and I think everybody should be using this when it is needed, all right? So what I did in the past couple of videos is I really went into the, what is an interactive story? When do you use it? What is the major kind of premise behind it? The major structure. And now the rest of this week, what I'm doing is I'm going into, the middle piece of the mechanics behind how to make the decisions and the agency and the contextual situations, how to make them, structure them powerfully, and also what are some of the mechanics you can add, on top of the entire story that'll make it more persuasive. And I think you can see that, you can read it in the right way. Yes, okay, cool. So yesterday, what I did is I went into this middle part here, which is where we have our pearls, right? And we call this a string of pearls because in an interactive story, all the branches can actually fold right back into the story. It actually helps you craft a compelling narrative without diluting your message too much. Because let's be real here, the purpose of an interactive story is not to teach you how to be an amazing salesperson. It's not to teach you how to let's say do some sort of software interactions. An interactive story's purpose is to get somebody who is unaware that there is a better way of doing stuff, and through the journey of a character, to get them to see what that journey looks like and get them to the end. And we're hacking things like story, we're hacking things like agency, so that the person who in the very beginning has no clue and does not care about anything that you've got planned for them later on, whether it's tutorials, mentorship, videos, micro-learning, whatever it is, they don't care about it right now. By the end of this story, they're going to be excited about it and they're going to be pumped to go. All right? I just want to give everybody that recap. So if this is your first time here, you're like, oh, I see, I get the context. And now you know what you're looking for when you go back to those other videos. So let's get into this middle here again and now talk about the karma meter, okay? So first off, before we get into the karma meter, I just want to do a recap of what a pearl is, because the karma meter, it works together with the pearl, right? So the pearl is a scenario, right? Action beats, decisive moment, people make a decision, then where they're presented with a conundrum that they have to solve, then they get into the choices, and the choices lead to consequences, okay? And when I say string of pearls, you take this interaction and you repeat it, 5-6 times, and you've got a beautiful string of pearls, all right? Now, where does the karma meter fall in? So, am I showing you this kind of? Yeah, okay, here we go. This is good. All right. So here, see these choices here? You have the opportunity to actually attach values to these choices, right? You can definitely build an interactive story without going in the back end and adding some sort of a score or attaching a score to each of these choices. You can actually just make them, if you choose this one, then this happens. If you choose this one, then this happens. But if you want to get a little more sophisticated and you want to have the accumulation of decisions over time mean something, then you want to use the karma meter. So here's the karma meter. And I know this might look a little bit complicated, but let me just walk through this, because the goal of this is not to confuse you or add complexity to these mechanics. These are actually quite simple. And they're very logical cause and effect type things. Now, the reason you're using these mechanics is because, like I said, and I'll keep on stressing this, it doesn't matter what tech you use, how sexy it looks, how many of these mechanics you use. If your story sucks, your character is not compelling, and your context is weak, and you've got it's not really realistic to real life and what people think and how people decide, all this stuff is just going to be novelty for 1 or 2 clicks, and then you're going to lose people. So this is a strategy you'd overlay on top of an already awesome story and decisions, okay? Just want to make that clear, because I think a lot of people get enamored with mechanics and they think they can just sprinkle things onto boring stuff and it'll happen, right? That's why we have millions and millions of repositories of click and reveal interactions, but they all kind of end up being just bling on top of something that's not a good foundation. So the thing that you're looking at here is, see, these are the different choices from each pearl. And with each choice, you are accumulating a score, right? So these are your behavior choices. And let's say, and then that score is added up here. And then if this happens, if the score is above 50, let's say, then you get kicked out and this happens. If the score is below 50, then something else happens, right? And basically what you can do is with your karma score, even if somebody doesn't notice on the front side that there's actually score being kept, what happens is, and we've used this in different ways, let me tell you right now. So in one of our demos that you can see, which is super awesome, Broken Coworker, what we did is there was no meter on the outside, right? It was actually just on the back end. We were looking at the choices that you made. And if you made some really poor choices up front consistently, we thought, you really shouldn't be moving forward because you're not really getting the lesson and you shouldn't get to the end. So what we want to do is, if the tally of these 3 options is below a certain score, what we will do is we will use that score to kick you out and make you start again, because you're not getting the lessons, right? We want you to succeed, but we're not going to make you suffer through the whole thing, because it's not worth it for you. That's not the lesson we're trying to get, right? We're trying to get you to try good practices. Okay, I'm going to make sure to move this. Okay, cool. And then the other thing is the consideration you got to think about is, why are you doing this and what you want to reveal to the people that you're designing this learning for, because this can actually be used very, very strategically. The karma meter, really, at the end of it, is supposed to be the next layer of reinforcing certain behaviors, right? So let me give you an example that one of my students did. So and here is a hand-drawn piece for you guys. So hopefully you can see that. So let's pretend this is an interactive story that you've seen play out. And this is just, let's say, a single screen of it, all right? Hope that's making sense. So you go through the interactive story here. This is your scenario, right? This is your decision point here, let's say, and now you've got to make a choice. Now, what you can do, and this is a decision, this is a strategic decision, is you can actually show the karma meter score on the side. So one of my students decided that one of the things that was, there's two metrics at her organization that are very, very important. One is efficiency, the other one is customer service, right? But those two things, sometimes in some situations you can be more efficient while the customer service is lax, or right, vice versa, right? So these are the things that she's trying to reinforce. And so she thought it would be actually quite useful to see, for the learner to see as they make this decision, how this impacts these two scores, efficiency versus customer effectiveness, right? Or customer happiness, right? And sometimes you got to be efficient, and and yes, the customer won't be able to talk to you for 4 hours, but hey, you did your job, right? And there's a balance there. So she wanted to reinforce that right away. And so she chose to have that here. And yes, Helen has a great question. This is what you applied in Broken Coworker, right? I played it a number of times. Let's see if I can see more. Can I see more? And because I wanted to see how you handled it. Good, excellent. I love it. Helen's already one of those people who understands that to be able to do a good interactive story, you actually have to go through other interactive stories and see how they work on the back end. I'm loving that. That's awesome. Yes, that's exactly what we did in Broken Coworker. We applied the karma meter and tallied your choices. If you hit a certain point, boom, we kick you out, right? But we never showed you the score in the interaction. In fact, we made it look like this, right? It was without this stuff. You were just focused on the story, and it didn't affect this. I've seen other places where the karma meter is shown, but it is shown in the breaks between the stories when you're getting your constructive feedback. So we could say, at this point, you've made this decision. And in other places I've seen where it says, your leadership versus the morale of your team, right? You were a great leader, maybe, but your morale suffered because you were, maybe a little bit too domineering, but you needed to step in and be the leader there and make that decision. And then some places it's like you let the team decide, blah, 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 right? So what happens is you can very strategically reinforce specific behaviors, show people how their decisions are impacting those, and then decide where you want to show them. And the reason I tell you this is because a lot of people don't think about this strategically. They'll just cover this whole thing with a whole bunch of, meters and this and that. And sometimes it's actually distracting. And you have to think about, is this going to improve the decision making? Is this going to influence? Definitely will influence the decision making. So what am I trying to help them reinforce here, right? Or is it going to distract them from the decision making? Because if you have an interactive story and the people see this action and then they see what's happening here, they might actually, instead of really exploring it, they might actually just say, oh, how can I game this so I get the highest score, right? So it depends what you want to emphasize. For something that's dealing with emotional intelligence, right? And you're crafting a story about emotional intelligence like Broken Coworker, you probably don't care about the meter, right? That badly. But what you might care about is, especially if you're dealing, let's say, with a call center environment where data is very important, metrics matter, individual metrics matter, that might be something that you do want to include because it reinforces the beliefs and the metrics that are going to be used to assess your performance, right? So you got to be strategic with this. Just because you have a karma meter doesn't mean you have to show it, right? Just because, and like I said, you don't have to use this, but it's a really cool tool to use on the back end to really reinforce higher level objectives and behaviors and make people pay attention to not just feedback, but certain, behaviors. So it's partly used as a diagnostic tool for them, but it's also partly used as a persuasion tool for you, right? So think about it that way. Now, of course, there's more details to this, but I can't really get into the back end behind it because that would just take all day. But if this is something that, if you're doing work and this gets you excited and you're like, man, I wish I could do this kind of stuff every day, guess what? I'd love to talk to you. Because if the thing with interactive stories is they're meant to get somebody from a state of complete unawareness, right? Somebody's cold, who doesn't care to look in the LMS to see all the amazing training software and all this stuff that's in there. The interactive story is meant to show them a different future. Like if they went on this journey of discomfort, right, of learning new things, stepping outside of their comfort zone, they're actually going to get to a better place, right? And you do that through weaving a character in a story. And a lot of us want to see that, and that's, to me, that's kind of amazing, because what you can do is you can actually craft an experience that gives people an aha moment. We call that an epiphany, right? And epiphanies are amazing at giving people the opportunity to change their behavior. And as far as I'm concerned, a ton of us out there, not all of us, but a ton of us out there who design online learning are actually, that gets them excited. Like they'll work on weekends just to get some behavior change going on, right? Like I talk to people every day who I'm like, okay, so, what would be an amazing experience for you? And they're like, or what has been an amazing experience? And they're like, I launched something and not only was I proud of it, but I actually got like people saying that they actually enjoyed the experience and it impacted their lives. Like that's the kind of stuff you want to do, right? So a lot of us are on that, especially right now, hamster wheel of putting out stuff. And we think that these kinds of strategies are, they're out of our reach. They're either, some people don't know how to get started because this isn't, something we were taught in instructional design school. But a lot of us are actually just saying, okay, this is so complicated or this takes so much time that I'm not able to implement it in a just-in-time kind of environment, so I'll just give up altogether. So what I wanted to do is give you the opportunity to see how these things work, see that the mechanics aren't complicated, and that you can take something that's already great, like let's say an interactive story that has some great situations, that has a great character, and if that base is set right and you add these little elements based on what you think is necessary, it's like you got a strong pilot, and you're just pouring the gas on. And these things are just, they'll blow up. They'll absolutely blow up, because you're not only crafting things that mean something to people, which is huge, by adding these different mechanics, you're kind of stacking the odds in your favor that people are going to either, the competitive types are going to want to see the karma meter, right? You're reinforcing certain behaviors. So you're like, oh man, what am I going to do in this situation? It's actually important that I'm efficient, not just helping the customer. I actually have to meet some quotas, and look, there's 100 other people waiting. So what's the balance, right? So there's really so much opportunity for you to incorporate these in small bits, right? And add them on as layers of engagement, right? But they're not the sprinkle that goes on top of bad stuff. They're the sprinkle that goes on top of a really good foundation. So if you want to learn more about how that foundation is made, how to craft your own awesome experience, maybe craft a story that represents more of the work that you want to do and build it for yourself as a portfolio piece, I would love to talk to you. Like I said, I put a link underneath this video so that you can book some time with me so I can figure out if this is something that I can help you with, and we can craft your own. Otherwise, I'm so pleased to have you here. This is awesome. I'm glad you're excited and interested in this. This is great. And I'll be posting another video around this time tomorrow on another awesome mechanic. So stay tuned for that. And If you like this video and if you found it useful and you want to see tomorrow's, make sure you like or share this video, because then you'll be notified right away when I come on live, so that you can join me for the next installment of interactive storytelling, crafts making mechanics. All right, take care. Have a wonderful rest of the day, friends. Thanks so much. Bye.